After 35 years as a nun, Grandma reveals a shocking secret the church tried to hide. The kitchen was filled with the warm aroma of cinnamon and freshly baked bread, but the heavy air crackled with hidden tension. Sister Agnes stood in the doorway, her hands clasped in front of her, fingers trembling slightly. After 35 years devoted to the church, she was back in the home where laughter echoed around the table, now silenced by unspoken dread. Her children and grandchildren gathered, their faces bright with rosy anticipation, yet shadowed by confusion. What could Grandma possibly say that would pull her away from the church of eternal devotion? They watched her, eyes wide and hearts racing, as the familiar stillness of her presence and the sacred hymn that danced on her lips now felt like a distant murmur. The walls seemed to lean in, pressing closer, eager to eavesdrop. Memories fluttered through Agnes's mind, sacrifices made, silent prayers whispered in the dead of night. But now, none felt as heavy as the weight she carried on this visit. She inhaled deeply, lingering on the comforting scent of home, but it twisted into something more rancid in the back of her throat. She could almost hear the echoed prayers from her years spent in service, yet they felt tainted now, contaminated by what she held close, by secrets buried deep, threats that loomed. With every step towards the table, she felt her heartbeat thunder in her chest. The wrinkles on her face carved a worried map that only her family could read. They shifted nervously in their chairs, a mix of excitement and dread swirling in the air. "Why are you here, Mama?" one asked, voice strained with a mix of hope and fear. "To share something significant," Agnes managed, her voice quivering, a whisper edged in simple sincerity. The word significant hung heavily as she contemplated the truth cloaked in darkness. What could this mean for their faith? For the community that had nurtured them all these years? The children leaned in closer, glancing at one another, eyes filled with the flickering light of curiosity mixed with apprehension. They had heard tales of Sister Agnes, the devoted nun who had sacrificed everything. But what could be so important that it pulled her from service, from the altar where she felt so safe? Just as she felt the tension peak to a snapping point, a sudden knock echoed through the quiet house. Everyone froze. Who could it be? The door creaked open, shadows rushing into the evening light. A figure stepped inside, cloaked in mystery, eyes gleaming with secrets of their own. Agnes felt her stomach drop. Whatever revelations she had planned to share now sat precariously on the edge of her tongue. The confrontation was imminent, and the questions weighed heavily. Would this new visitor help to unveil the truth, or wrap them all deeper in the church's darkest cover-up? Hey, before we continue with this incredible story, I need to give you an important warning. Many subscribers have reported that YouTube removed their subscriptions without notice. Just take a quick look at the red button below to make sure you're still subscribed to the channel. I don't want you to miss any exclusive content coming up. And since you're here, smash that like button because it really helps me with the algorithm. Oh, and tell me in the comments, which city are you watching from? I love getting to know every amazing person who is part of this community. Your participation makes all the difference. Let's interact. Just as the door swung open, an icy gust swept through the kitchen, rustling the families. Hair in their quiet murmurings. A figure stood framed against the fading light, face partially obscured by a shadowy hood. It wasn't a familiar face, but the tension in the room tightened like a noose. The unknown visitor took a step forward, shaking off droplets of rain that clung to their coat. "Who are you?" one of the grandchildren asked, eyes darting from Sister Agnes to the intruder. Sister Agnes felt cold panic creeping into her heart. "No, it can't be," she murmured, almost to herself, as fragments of the past cracked against the present. "Agnes," came the voice, rich and deep, cutting through the silence. "You didn't think I'd stay hidden forever, did you?" The figure pulled back the hood, revealing a striking face. It was a face she knew all too well, one that haunted her thoughts, one that was supposed to be locked away forever. "Joseph?" Agnes gasped, her voice trembling, the name slipping out like a forgotten prayer. The room felt electric, alive with confusion and shock. "But how?" one of her children whispered, as if speaking any louder would shatter the fragile moment. "We fought you!" Agnes started, choking on the words, eyes wide. Decades of silence, pain, and unfulfilled questions crashed down in an instant. Joseph took a step forward, his gaze piercing through the air, heavy with unspoken truths. "I've come to reveal the truth about what happened, about the day I left." Gasps filled the room, each one a bead of disbelief strung together by fear and curiosity. The children and grandchildren exchanged nervous glances. They couldn't fathom that this figure was once part of the tapestry of their lives, now returned to unravel it all. "Mom, what is going on?" another grandchild asked, voice shaky, looking for answers that seemed forever out of reach. Agnes's heart raced. Truth crashed against her carefully built walls. The church, those years of service, the secrets she'd harbored, and the guilt she wore like a necklace. Was it all about to unravel in front of her family? "I left to protect you all," Joseph pressed forward, urgency dancing in his eyes. "You deserved better than the lies we were fed. The truth was buried." The truth was buried. "But it's time to dig it up." "What truth?" one of the daughters demanded, frustration coloring her voice. The atmosphere thickened, barely holding back the weight of revelations. Joseph's voice dropped to a whisper, fragile yet potent. "The church. It covered up everything. Your mother, her vows, her past. They needed someone to blame, to hide behind their failings." Agnes felt the walls close in, suffocating her. "What do you mean?" she rasped, overwhelmed. "Your sister," Joseph revealed, tension rippling through the room. She wasn't the only one. The words pierced through the silence like glass shattering. Her sister? The child Agnes had lost long ago? "No," she breathed, shaking her head in disbelief. Joseph pressed on. That night, they made a choice. They thought it would save the community, but it only buried the truth deeper. Chaos erupted. Her family sat rooted in shock, while Agnes felt her own world tilt. Each revelation spun like a whirlwind, a cyclone of abandonment and betrayal. Was everything founded on a lie? "Stay calm, please," Joseph urged, holding out his hands as if to stem the tide of emotion. "You owe it to yourselves to hear me out." But the knot twisted in Agnes's stomach. Was it too late to rebuild from ashes? Or would the truth set fire to everything they knew? As the storm of emotions clashed around her, the question loomed larger than life. How many secrets hid beneath the surface? And could they all survive when the weight of betrayal finally broke free? Agnes's heart raced as Joseph's words hung thick in the air. Her mind swirled with visions of the past. The whispers, the secrets, the sister who had slipped through her fingers like sand. Then came a sound, a ferocious rustling outside the window. Something crashed, shattering the quiet like glass breaking underfoot. Startled, the family turned toward the noise. A flash of light illuminated the room. A bright, blinding light. The kitchen filled with a dazzling brightness that felt alive. The walls shuddered as the storm outside erupted, wind whipping through branches like a wild beast. Fear twisted in the pit of Agnes's stomach. "Stay calm," she urged, her voice barely cutting through the chaos. But chaos was unyielding. The light flickered and dimmed. Then every device in the kitchen seemed to buzz with electric tension. The air thickened, crackling like static around them. At that moment, the door blasted open, swinging wildly. Rain cascaded in, as if trying to drown the revelation now looming before them. A figure burst in, soaking wet, tousled hair flying in every direction. It was a young woman, drenched and panting as if she had run a marathon. Her eyes darted around, panic painted across her face. "I found it! I found the truth!" she gasped, clutching a soaked envelope. "Who are you?" one grandchild shouted, confusion spilling over like the rain pooling at their feet. I'm your sister!" she exclaimed, voice desperate and raw. "No time to explain. You all need to hear this." Agnes's heart dropped. "What do you mean?" she stuttered, a flood of disbelief crashing over her. Her sister? It couldn't be. The girl shook her head, water spraying like shattered dreams. "The church isn't just hiding secrets about you, Agnes. They're hiding secrets about me. About all of us. I found documents. Proof." She held the envelope up like a lifeline. "What kind of proof?" Joseph's urgency rose in his throat, eyes glued to the envelope. "Proof that changes everything. They thought I was gone. They thought I was dead, just like they wanted." Her body shook with fervent energy. Suddenly, the lights flickered again, and the power went out. Darkness enveloped the room. The shadows that filled the space felt alive, hungry. The tension turned to a suffocating blanket, and Agnes's breath caught in her throat. Then, from the blackness, her granddaughter whispered, "What if it's all a lie? What if everything we know is just an illusion?" "It's not an illusion," the girl insisted, desperation rising like a tide. "The church has been lying to you all. They're connected. Something bigger. I overheard them. I saw faces, names, stories that intertwine." "Stop. Enough," Agnes cried, feeling the walls close in. "You don't know what you're saying. You can't just walk in here and throw accusations." But the girl stepped closer, voice trembling with fear, and "Fire! I have proof. I found out who your sister really was. She was involved in something terrible, a scandal that could destroy the church." "That's not true," Agnes shouted, denial seeping from her words. "She was innocent. She was just a girl." The girl shook her head, eyes shining with unshed tears. "Innocent or not, she was part of it. I have the names. They attempted to erase her." "What names?" Joseph pressed, brow knitted in concern. "I can't tell you here." The girl eyed the windows, fear thrumming through her voice. "But they're watching. They've always watched. The day she disappeared, and the day they told you she died, it was all to cover something up. They needed a scapegoat, and They chose her. Suddenly, Agnes felt cold. A chill seeped into her bones. A plan she thought had crumbled started to piece together. Before her very eyes, the entire universe shifted. "How do you know all this?" Agnes whispered, desperately seeking a lifeline, a way back to certainty. "Because I'm your sister," the girl said firmly. "And the church's secrets run deeper than you could ever imagine." Stunned silence fell. All eyes locked onto the young woman as the gravity of her words sank in. Agnes's heart trembled, a volatile earthquake of emotion. What had she uncovered? And worse, what had she thought she lost? The room swirled with fear, revelations intertwining like a wicked thread, weaving through the tapestry of their lives. Suddenly, a loud knock echoed again. The sound sent shards of bread racing through her. Who was at the door now? And was anyone safe from the tidal wave of truths yet to come? The young woman's voice hung heavy in the air, a confession built on urgency and heartbreak. Agnes's mind reeled. Her sister? The one she'd thought lost to shadows? The reality felt like a nightmare folding in on itself. Before anyone could process what was happening, another loud knock jolted the room. More insistent this time. Each knock echoed against the walls, a rhythmic drumbeat of dread. "Who is it now?" one of the grandchildren whispered, fear lacing their words. The girl shouted, "We can't let them in! They're here!" "For us, they're always watching." Agnes's heart raced. "Who are you talking about?" Panic washed over her. "Could anyone help them now?" I don't know," the girl stuttered, pressing the envelope against her chest, eyes wild. "But they'll silence us if we don't act fast." Suddenly, the door burst open, slamming against the wall. A chilling draft swept through the kitchen, freezing them in place. In stepped two men, dressed in dark suits, their expressions as hard as stone, eyes scanning the room like predators seeking prey. "Agnes," one of them said, voice icy like a blade. "You need to come with us, now." "Who are you?" one of Agnes's daughters snapped, voice unwavering but trembling. "You don't just barge in here." "It's a matter of church business," the other man replied, "and we've been looking for you." A chill washed over Agnes as she glanced at Joseph. His face morphed into a mask of dread. "Agnes," he whispered, "don't trust them. They're here to cover up a truth you can't afford to ignore." "We've kept you safe for years," the first man continued, stepping closer. "But now the time has come for you to face what you've hidden away. Your family's past isn't just a secret, it's a weapon." Agnes felt something cold grip her heart. "What do you mean?" she stammered, feeling the walls of her world start to close in. Secrets had always been there, lurking. But now they were monsters. "Your sister's death," the second man said sharply, "wasn't an accident. She knew too much. And there are others who will do anything to keep it buried." Agnes felt herself start to shake. No, it couldn't be. Her sister, a casualty of a cover-up? It felt unreal, like the ground was slipping beneath her. The young woman, her sister, stepped forward. "What are you talking about?" Her voice was fierce, full of determination. "Why didn't I know?" The tension snapped, and the men glanced at each other before the first one spoke again. "Because we needed to protect you, all of you. But now that the truth is out, we can't guarantee your safety." Suddenly, the lights flickered wildly, and the storm outside roared like thunder. In that blinding moment, time stood still. Just as Agnes opened her mouth to ask what they meant, the younger girl's eyes widened. "Look out!" Agnes turned, heart pounding, just in time to see a shadow move through the window, something dark and heavy breaking into the space between them. It rushed forward, knocking over a chair, sending it crashing to the floor. A sudden shout pierced the chaos. "They're here!" The men lunged toward the door, panic spreading like wildfire. "Run! We have to protect her!" In that instant, something clicked in Agnes's mind. A flash of recognition ignited in her gut. "You work for the church," she accused, realization crashing over her. "You're not here to protect us. You're the ones hiding the truth." Before anyone could respond, the other man pulled out a small device, a strange black box, and pressed a button. An electric shock rippled through the air, causing everything to fall silent. The young woman screamed, but no one heard her. They were caught in a web of betrayal, so thick that no one could break free. The darkness felt like a blanket, smothering them, the air heavy with fear. "Agnes!" Joseph shouted, a plea in his voice. "Find the truth. Don't bury yourself in their lies." And in that moment, everything that had been so carefully hidden began to unravel. What truths were waiting to be unveiled? Why had they come? And most importantly, what part did Agnes truly play in this twisted tale? The space filled with untold possibilities as the figures in the dark shifted, shadows looming large. Would the truth liberate them or destroy them? Would she discover who she really was before it was too late? With uncertainty wrapping around her like a vice, Agnes took a deep breath, ready to confront whatever was about to erupt from the darkness. Agnes's heart pounded as darkness swallowed the kitchen, the tension suffocating. The figures of the men loomed large, shadows wrapped around them like a storm. The revelation that her sister might still be alive hit her like a tidal wave. But now they were trapped, caught between truths and lies, the air electric with fear. "What do you want from us?" she demanded, desperation seeping into her tone. "Agnes, you need to come with us," one man said again, his voice calm but firm, eyes like steel. "We have matters to settle. What you've uncovered cannot go unaddressed." "Settle?" The words slipped out like poison on her tongue. "You think we'll just go with you? After everything?" As doubt twisted her gut, her sister stepped closer. "We can't let them intimidate us, Agnes. We've survived in the dark for too long." "Silence!" one of the men barked, his patience waning. The pressure in the room felt like a tightening grip around her throat. Just then, the younger girl with the envelope, her sister, suddenly doubled over, gasping for air, clutching her chest. Fear surged through Agnes. "What's wrong?" "I can feel it," the girl managed to choke out, her face pale. "It's like something's pulling at me. The truth, it's alive." Then an ear-splitting crash erupted behind them, like thunder tearing the night apart. A figure burst through the back door, panting and wild-eyed. It was a man, drenched but unmistakably familiar. Agnes's heart dropped. "David?" she gasped, her long-dead husband stepping into the light. The one she grieved for all those years. "Agnes," he cried, voice raw with urgency. "Get away from them! They're not who you think they are!" Confusion enveloped the room. The two men recoiled, eyes widening, but their composure stayed. "You shouldn't be here," one hissed. "We can't. Let the truth come out, remember?" The other snapped under his breath, but it carried like thunder. David ignored them, rushing forward, desperation etched in every line of his face. "I came back for you. Your sister. She's been in danger. The church won't stop at anything to keep her quiet." Agnes's world spiraled. "But how is this possible? Joy and shock tangled together in a chaotic knot, threatening to choke her. You died. I faked it, he admitted, eyes darting nervously. I had to escape when I found out they were planning to frame Agnes and her sister for everything. Secrets buried, all to protect their power. The other men surged forward, hands raised. Get back, David, they shouted, tension sparking. Like static electricity, Agnes felt reality skew. What do you mean frame? What's really happening? David turned, voice fiercer now. It started with your sister's death, Agnes. And they've been using you to keep it hidden. But I've gathered evidence. This all leads back to the church, to dark rituals to maintain their control. You've been a pawn in their game. What? The room fell deathly still. A pawn? How could they? They'll do anything to silence the truth. The truth about their past, your sister's fate, and who you really are. Agnes's breath hitched, the pieces of her identity shattering around her. What do you mean who I really am? The men moved, fixated on David, like wolves closing in. You're crossing. A line, boy! One shouted. Stay away from her! David roared, stepping in front of Agnes, shielding her from the looming threat. Cries erupted from her family, confusion clouding their faces. What does he mean? One of her children asked, voice trembling. Tell us, yelled another. Give us answers! But before anyone could speak, a blinding flash erupted again. The lights flickered uncontrollably before plunging them into darkness. A deafening silence enveloped them, broken only by the sound of footsteps outside, a heavy, rhythmic thud approaching. They have come for you, David warned, voice low and urgent. You must choose, Agnes. Are you ready to stand against them? Are you willing to step into the light? With the storm swirling louder and shadows creeping in, the clash of truth and deception hung thick in the air. What will you do now? David whispered, his eyes locking onto Agnes's. Would she face the darkness, or let their fears consume them all? Agnes felt her heart race, every fiber of her being pulled toward the man she once loved, now standing before her after years of mourning. David, you faked your death? Why? Panic surged through her, curiosity gripping her tightly in its fist. Because, Agnes, he said urgently, the truth about your sister's death was too dangerous. They were going to frame you, to silence you both. I had to protect you. The room pulsed with tension, every gaze locked onto David. The two men exchanged glances, their resolve faltering just for a moment. We will handle her, one of them growled, stepping closer with a menacing gleam in his eye. But just as David prepared to respond, the ground shook beneath them. It started as a low rumble that crescendoed into a thunderous roar, rattling the walls. The lights flickered violently, and the windows rattled in their frames, as if an unseen force was pushing against them. Everyone, down! Joseph shouted, pulling Agnes close. The force of a strong wind swept through the open door, sending paper scattering like autumn leaves. Hold on, David yelled, but his words were swallowed by the storm inside and out. Then, with a deafening crash, the ceiling shook and part of it caved in. Dust and debris fell, enveloping them in a hazy cloud. The young woman lurched back, gasping as she struggled to breathe. What's happening? Suddenly, amidst the chaos, a piercing scream erupted from within the cloud. It was the cry of the drenched young woman, Agnes's sister. No! Agnes shouted, desperate to see through the storm. The shadowy chaos shifted, and she caught a glimpse of her sister's face, contorted in terror. "Agnes, help!" her sister cried. Reaching out through the debris, eyes wide with fear, Agnes stumbled forward instinctively, but the men grabbed her, yanking her back. "Stay away from her!" they roared, their grip tightening as they pulled her toward the kitchen's corner. "Let her go!" David shouted, pushing against. The men, but they were too powerful. With a sudden crash, the dust began to clear, revealing something that made the blood drain from Agnes's face. The figure of her sister wasn't alone. Emerging from the chaos was another person. A child, small and frail, stepping into the light. A child with familiar features, mirror reflections of Agnes's own. A sharp gasp went through the room as astonished faces turned to her. "I thought you were dead!" Agnes whispered, incredulous, her world splintering. But that wasn't the only shock. The child turned toward David, and a gleam of recognition crossed his face. "No, it can't be," he stammered, eyes widening in disbelief. "What do you mean?" Agnes demanded, her heart racing. "Who is this?" A smile crept across her sister's lips, twisted in its glee. "Didn't you see? I was never lost. I've been here, guarding her all this time, securing our legacy." Agnes felt a punch in her gut. "What legacy? What are you saying?" Before she could gather her thoughts, the wind roared again, louder this time, rattling the walls like a freight train. A blinding light suddenly filled the room, pulsating with an otherworldly energy that washed over them all. The two men staggered back, shock rippling across their faces. Statements fell silent, and as Agnes turned toward her sister for clarity, she caught a glimpse of something sinister and calculating in her eyes. Something that turned familial love into a nightmarish portrait. "They've been using us as pawns all along," her sister laughed, voice echoing in the chaos. "They want to control us. They didn't just forget me. They created me, Agnes. The past holds no power over us anymore." With that, the floor trembled violently. Everything around them shattered, and Agnes stumbled, falling to her knees. The weight of betrayal hung heavy, choking her. As darkness edged around her vision, the child reached out to her sister, their connection crackling with a force never before felt. "What did you do?" Agnes cried, realization crashing down. "What did you create?" "Something beyond your comprehension," her sister replied, an eerie smile on her lips, as if she knew the secrets of the universe and chose to withhold them. "Stop it! You don't know what you're doing!" Agnes screamed. But the ground beneath her broke apart, beams of light shooting up, illuminating long hidden shadows. Then everything went black. The last thing Agnes saw was the glint of eye colors shifting between her sister and the child. Something dark, something powerful. As silence enveloped the room, she heard whispers in the void. "It's only the beginning. Accept your fate." And then all fell quiet. Where was everyone? Were they lost in the chaos? Or was she the only one left in the abyss? The truth awaited, but the consequences felt unbearable. What was the fate of her family, now clutched in the hands of secrets she couldn't even begin to understand? Agnes felt her heart pound in the darkness, her breath quickening. It was too much. The weight of betrayal hung thick. Her sister standing there, a reflection of everything she feared. "What have you done?" she gasped. But there was no answer. Only a chilling silence, wrapped in shadows. The storm outside raged loudly, wind howling like a captive animal. Debris swirled in the air, caught in an unseen current. In that chaos, Agnes managed to take a step back, her mind racing. I need to understand. But just then the blinding light flickered again, forcing her to shield her eyes. An electric charge seemed to pulse through the very walls, and in that moment, everything shifted. Then, without warning, the ground quaked again, stronger this time. A violent tremor rippled through the room. The lights flickered, darkness threatening to swallow them whole. "What is happening?" her daughter shouted, panic slicing through the chaos. "Stay close," Joseph yelled, gripping Agnes's arm. But all at once, the world erupted. A sudden roar filled the room, louder than the storm outside. The walls cracked, and the very foundation shuddered. Then, like a sledgehammer, a floorboard splintered and gave way beneath them. Screams pierced the air as they scrambled to hold on. Agnes fell, her body hitting the ground hard. Dust choked her, and she fought against the urge to panic. "Help!" she gasped, reaching out blindly. And then came the echoes of laughter. A sinister, twisted sound that sent chills racing down her spine. It was her sister's voice, mingled with the child's, rising from the dark. "You'll never know the truth. You're too late." Suddenly, a massive form crashed through the wall, sending pieces of the ceiling cascading down. As the dust settled, a figure emerged from the rubble. A towering figure cloaked in shadows, eyes glowing like embers. "Enough!" the figure bellowed, voice deep and thunderous. It was like nothing they had ever seen. Part man, part something horrifyingly otherworldly. Fear gripped Agnes's heart, and she stumbled back into Joseph's arms. "No!" her sister cried, face twisted in rage. "You are not supposed to be here!" Agnes looked back at them, confusion flooding her. "Who is this?" she demanded, voice shaking. "He's the reason all this happened," her sister spat, fury coloring her voice. "He's the one they used to control you." In that moment, clarity struck like lightning. "Control me?" Agnes echoed, blood running cold. "What does that mean?" "This is bigger than any of us," the figure intoned, moving closer, shadows distorting his shape. "You were born of my pact, Agnes. You carry the lineage of secrets, an unraveling destined toward chaos." Agnes recoiled, her heart racing. "You're lying!" But before she could protest further, the figure raised a hand, releasing a wave of energy that swept through the room. Everything around them glimmered, shimmering light cascading like stars, before plunging into shadow. Agnes's vision swam, and she stumbled forward, gasping. "What is happening?" The room spun violently, then suddenly stilled. Uniform silence blanketed them. Agnes blinked against the oppressive darkness, feeling a strange tug within her. Something inside was awakening. "You'll finally know the truth," the figure declared, voice echoing as if from the depths of a cavern. "Your past, your sister, the real source of the church's power. It is all tied to you." "No!" Agnes shouted, but she could feel the connection in her bones. With dawning horror, she realized what this meant. Joseph gripped her hand tighter, eyes wide with despair. Suddenly, a bright light erupted behind her, illuminating the room with a brilliance that felt alive. It expanded outward, enveloping everything in its wake. And in that blinding glow, Agnes glimpsed shadows, shadows of those lost to her. Her sister, the child, were they all part of something greater? As the light consumed her, she felt pulled, sucked into a vortex of memories, secrets unraveling before her eyes. "Agnes!" Joseph cried, But his voice faded into the chaos. The last thing she heard was her sister's laughter, intertwining with the figure's ominous whisper. "Embrace your destiny, Agnes." It's only just beginning. And then there was nothing but flame and shadow, swirling together, each one igniting the other as the ground vanished beneath her. Questions loomed in the air like fading echoes. What would she discover? What lay ahead? The answers were out of reach. But one truth held her fate in its grasp. Everything she thought she knew was just the cover of a deeper, darker story waiting to unfold. Agnes felt the ground crack beneath her, a chasm opening up in the swirling darkness. It roared like a living creature, as if it sought to swallow them whole. All the lights blinked out in one blinding flash, leaving only the crackling energy pulsing through the room. She stumbled forward, her heart thumping wildly, desperate for something solid to hold on to. In that chaos, her sister's voice cut through like glass breaking. "Agnes, you're chosen! You must!" But before she could finish, a blinding light engulfed them. The force of it pushed Agnes down as a tempest roared around them, shaking her to the core. She felt everything she believed shatter. Memories exploded, her past, her family, her devotions to the church, all laid bare. What if the truth burned beneath her skin like a branding? Then it happened. From the light, a figure stepped forward. It was familiar, but twisted. Whispers filled the air, layering confusion on top of chaos. The light dimmed, revealing a reflection of Agnes, an alternate version of herself. She was dressed in the same brown habit, but her eyes gleamed with a darkness that spoke of secrets long hidden. "Who are you?" Agnes breathed, voice trembling. "What sorcery was this?" "I am what you could have been, if you'd embraced your true self." The doppelganger smiled, and something cold slithered down Agnes's spine. "No!" she shouted. "I'm not you! I'm me!" Her sister laughed, a haunting, chilling sound. "You think you're the only one who can see the truth? Look at her! She's been waiting. Together, we can end this." Agnes's world tilted. Shadows twisted around her sister and the figure, merging into a dark vortex. "What do you mean? End what?" Suddenly, the child, the young girl spoke, voice steady and clear. "You were never meant to be the nun, Agnes. Your real destiny lies in the shadows. You're all tangled up in this web, and you don't even know how deep it goes." A sharp gasp erupted from Joseph. "No! They're trying to manipulate you!" But Agnes felt a pull, a wanting. Confusion swirled. What secrets, she managed, wanting answers but fearing them all the same. The figure pointed at the two men who stood frozen. "They're bound by blood. They've been keeping you in the dark, tied to the church, tied to a past you don't know." Agnes's heart raced. What past? What blood? And then it happened. The air shimmered, and time itself unraveled. A vision sliced through her mind. A fiery scene. A mother, a baby, lost to darkness, swept away in shadows. She could see it clearly now. The connection stronger than any bond of loyalty or vow. The figure leaned closer. "You, Agnes, are not just a servant. You are a keeper of the hidden, of the power latent in your blood. Your mother, she was a conduit, and you are her legacy." In that moment, everything crashed together. The church, her sister, and even her children. Their gasps filled the void as the realization settled. The truth was an anchor dragging her down, tying her fate to something much larger. "What are you saying?" Agnes whispered, wide-eyed, the pieces falling together, yet slipping through her fingers. Are you saying I'm part of this? I'm saying that your destiny is intertwined with theirs, the figure replied, voice fluid and smooth. And I'm here to reclaim what was lost. Suddenly, a deafening crack echoed as the men lunged forward. No, one shouted, the darkness thickening. Around them. You can't let her in. Agnes recoiled, heart pounding, mind racing. What does this mean? What will happen? The doppelganger grinned, pure malice shining through. You will finally understand your worth, and you'll either join us or fall to the shadows. It's your choice. And before Agnes could even plead for clarity, another flash ripped through, blinding light exploding one last time, shaking the very foundation of her soul. The ground beneath cracked violently, and she found herself teetering on the edge of an abyss, staring down into an eternal dark. Choose wisely, Agnes, whispered the shadows. But then, as everything fell apart, she felt the ground surge upward, her sister, the girl, them all collapsing into a tight embrace. Everything rushing toward that point. A single question loomed, louder than any thunderclap. Would she leap into the unknown? Or would she watch everything she loved slip away? Agnes stood on the edge, her heart racing, every breath a desperate gasp against the chaos. The ground beneath twisted as panic whirled in her chest. She gripped Joseph's hand tighter, looking around, feeling the weight of lies crashing in. What do I do? She whispered, tears stinging her eyes. The glowing figure flickered. Her doppelganger was a mirror reflecting everything she feared. Embrace it, the figure hissed, eyes gleaming with knowledge and a darkness that pulled at Agnes, whispering promises of power and truth. Only through me can you realize your true destiny. No, this isn't who I am, Agnes shouted. But their words danced in shadows, wrapping around her mind. Suddenly a loud crack shattered the tension, booming like thunder. Everyone froze as the walls shook. Dust rained down, thick and suffocating. Joseph stumbled back, eyes wide with horror. What's happening? The dark figure advanced toward them, a sinister smile spreading across its face. Chaos is the path to clarity, Agnes. Look around you. It gestured wildly, the air thickening like the silence before a storm. Shut up! Her sister screamed, but the words disintegrated into the chaos. Panic surged through them all as the ground quaked beneath her feet. And then, as if summoned, a blinding light flickered back to life, revealing more than anyone could ever expect. The air hummed, vibrating with energy, and suddenly, from the shadows, a familiar figure stepped through the turmoil. Enough, shouted a voice Agnes recognized instantly. Her mother, the woman she mourned for all those years. She stood tall, radiating an aura neither of power nor fear. A tranquil yet fierce calm enveloped her, piercing through the veil of lies. Mom? Agnes gasped, disbelief wrenching her heart. But before she could process the images swirling in her head, her mother's voice echoed through the storm. You must listen to the truth, my dear. All of this, it was never about just you. What do you mean? Agnes breathed, her eyes darting between her sister and the mysterious figure, now faltering, as if unsure how to react. Her mother stepped closer, flames flickering as she spoke. You've been chosen for a purpose that transcends your understanding. Your father's legacy, it's entwined with this darkness. The shadows are not just a burden, they are your birthright. Anguish washed over Agnes. What's my birthright? What do you mean? She felt the walls close in, memories crashing like waves against the shore. Suddenly, her sister erupted with fury. You knew! But then it happened. The world twisted again, and blinding light blinded them, sending Agnes reeling. She shielded her eyes and staggered back, just as a scream ripped through the air. A terrified shout piercing their surreal reality. Agnes turned to see her sister staring, eyes widened in horror. Words caught in her throat. No, it can't be. And before any of them could move, the whole room seemed to freeze in place. From the space between breaths, an overwhelming presence materialized, shadowy and vast, all-consuming like the abyss. Mother, the creature called, voice a harmonious blend of chaos and power. It's time to reclaim what we've lost. Time slowed. Agnes's heart shattered as the truth unfurled before her. What was this presence? Fear gripped her throat like a vice as her mother's face paled. How is he? She whispered, dread pooling in her stomach. And then came the shocking revelation, reverberating across the room like a war cry. I am your father, the figure declared, and I've waited long enough to reveal the truth. Agnes gasped, the ground slipping from beneath her. What? No! Her mind spun, the weight of the revelation crashing down like thunder. How could this be? Everything you thought was hidden, her father continued, was merely waiting for the right moment to unleash its power. Your sister, the shadows. Every choice brings us closer to the truth. Her heart raced, fury and disbelief swirling within. You abandoned us, she shouted. You left us in darkness. Their world hung precariously on the edge of secrets, every relationship ready to shatter. The room pulsed with the energy of betrayal. Will you accept your legacy or succumb to it? He challenged, darkness brewing in his shadowy form. Agnes felt the ground quake again, the boundaries of her perception fracturing. Every truth she thought she understood melted away. What was real? What was a lie? As she stood trembling, teetering on the edge of everything they had known, one question resounding louder than any other echoed in her mind. What fate would she choose? And could she stand against the legacy threatening to engulf her? The air surged with tension as Agnes's father stepped forward, dark shadows swirling around him like smoke. Silence blanketed the room, and for a moment, everything felt suspended in time. Agnes's heart pounded like a war drum against her chest. You're my father, and you've been alive. All this time? Alive, yes, but not free. His voice echoed with a haunting certainty. What's been hidden from you was only the beginning. You are part of a legacy far greater than you imagined. Her sister glared at their father, seething with anger. What legacy? You abandoned us! You let us believe you were gone! The intensity in the air thickened as Agnes fought to find her footing. You say these things like they're normal. She took a step back, eyes darting between the doppelgangers. Her real sister's features twisted into something sinister and familiar. Why does everything have to be so complicated? Because the truth is never simple, he shouted, the shadows at his feet writhing like a restless tide. It's time to reclaim what was lost. Reclaim it? By spreading fear and chaos? Joseph stepped protectively in front of Agnes, his voice tight and defiant. But David, her husband, extended a hand to Joseph, shaking his head slowly. This is not our battle. It's hers. Agnes, you hold the key. With each heartbeat, the weight of it all pressed down on Agnes. Everything she cherished, her faith, her family, even her own identity, hung in the balance. What do I have to do? Her voice trembled, raw with emotion and determination. Make the choice, the figure replied, darkness swirling around him. Confront the truth buried in your blood and embrace your role. Light flickered across Agnes's face, illuminating the hope building. In her chest. If I have to make this choice, tears threatened to spill as memories of her sister's laughter danced in her mind. Then I choose to fight for us. As the words left her lips, a surge of energy blasted through the room. Shadows shrieked and recoiled, the light growing brighter. Her sister screamed, "No! You can't break free!" But Agnes surged forward, heartened by the voices of her family, the memories intertwining like a cocoon around her. I am not afraid of you. I will not let you destroy our legacy. In one swift motion, she reached for her father's outstretched hand. The moment their fingers touched, a shockwave rippled through the air. The power roared to life, a brilliant flame bursting forth from the darkness. The malevolence surrounding her father shrank away, consumed by the rising light. Her sister and the creature faltered, their twisted forms fading into vapor. You'll regret this, they shrieked before vanishing, leaving only echoes behind. As the echoes faded, Agnes found herself enveloped in warmth. The shadows melted into nothingness. Light filled the kitchen, illuminating the faces of her family. Joseph, the children, and David. Agnes, her sister called, now reborn in her true form, eyes filled with love instead of malice. You saved us. You broke the cycle. Agnes's heart soared as her family surrounded her, their bonds stronger than any darkness that had threatened to close in. We're together again, she said, choking on her emotion. We will make new memories. David pulled Agnes close, warmth flooding her heart. No more secrets. Together, we'll reclaim the love that was stolen. Together, Joseph echoed, a fierce determination radiating from him. Agnes looked at them all, and in that moment, she felt whole. Her past, once a heavy chain around her, now transformed into wings that lifted her higher. As light flooded the room, they stepped forward, leaving the shadows behind. Each step represented a new beginning, a promise of hope, a refusal to remain in the dark. And with that, the universe shifted, harmony restored. As they embraced, Agnes knew they would write their own story, one not bound by the legacy of secrets, but brimming with love and unity. In the quiet that followed, a sense of peace enveloped them. They were no longer whispers in the dark, but a family reborn. You have to subscribe right now. Don't miss another exclusive story that will keep you on the edge of your seat. Smash that like button right now to feed the algorithm. Let's push this community forward. Flood the comments section with your thoughts and theories about this wild ending. What do you think will happen next? And don't wait even one more second to share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see how this ends. This is the moment to show your support. Let's unite in this journey together.